I'm standing in the corner of a glass conference room, 30 floors up, when the billionaire slams his fist on the table. Solve this, and I agree to my son marrying you. His executives laugh like it's the funniest joke they've heard all year. My dust cloth goes still in my hand. On the screen behind him, red alerts are cascading: security breach, system failure. And my brain is already analyzing the attack pattern. I know how to fix this. Every line of code, every vulnerability, every solution, it's all right there in my head, from 1,000 midnight hours, teaching myself what no one thought I could learn. But if I step forward, I expose everything. The secret I've protected, the life I've hidden. 72 hours until his empire dies. And the only person who can save it is the maid he fired 3 months ago. My name is Bryn Gregory, and 6 months ago, I was invisible. Just another maid in a blue uniform, polishing tables in a mansion where people looked through me like I was part of the furniture. But here's what they didn't know. While they slept in their 43 rooms, I was in the basement teaching myself cybersecurity. YouTube tutorials, borrowed laptops, library computers, thousands of hours learning what a college degree was supposed to teach me before my parents died, and debt swallowed my future. Now that same billionaire who fired me for overstepping my place is staring at a screen that says his entire empire will be erased in 72 hours. His son, the only person who ever believed in me, just told him we're getting married. And Gavin laughed in his face. Then his phone exploded with alerts. And suddenly, the joke wasn't funny anymore, brace yourself. As I walk you through the most fascinating story of how life is full of possibilities if you never give up. Join me by subscribing to the channel and commenting where you are watching from. The basement server room hummed at 2:47 a.m., and I was exactly where I shouldn't be. My fingers flew across the borrowed laptop, ancient thing, duct tape holding the screen hinge together, as I navigated through another penetration testing tutorial. The guy on YouTube had a thick accent, terrible audio quality, but he understood buffer overflow attacks better than anyone I'd found. Rewind that, I muttered, dragging the progress bar back. My notepad was covered in scribbled code snippets, arrows connecting concepts, question marks where I'd need to research more. Above me, Gavin's mansion slept. 43 rooms of polished marble and people who'd never worked past midnight unless it was at some charity gala. I'd been cleaning those 43 rooms for 8 months, dusting bookshelves Gavin never read, polishing silver he never noticed, existing as furniture that occasionally moved. My phone buzzed. "You still up?" Dion. I shouldn't answer. Shouldn't encourage whatever this was between us. This weird friendship that felt like standing too close to something that could burn you. "Studying," I typed back. 3 dots appeared immediately. "You're incredible. Most people would have given up." My chest tightened. He didn't understand. Giving up wasn't an option when you'd already lost everything else. The video ended. I clicked the next one. Advanced Network Architecture, Part 7. My eyes burned. I'd been at this since my shift ended at 11, and my next shift started at 6. 4 hours of sleep if I stopped now. 3 if I finished this module. I kept playing. The accident replayed sometimes when I was this tired. Dad's laugh. Mom's terrible singing in the kitchen. The phone call that came at 3 a.m. 2 years ago, the one that divided my life into before and after. 1 drunk driver, 2 coffins, $17,000 in medical bills that insurance wouldn't cover, student loans I couldn't pay, a degree 1 semester from completion that I'd never finish. I shook my head, forcing focus back to the screen. The instructor was explaining firewall bypass techniques. I knew this already. I'd spent last month working through packet analysis, but repetition burned it deeper into memory. My tablet sat beside me, browser tabs open to Stack Overflow, GitHub repositories, documentation for 3 different programming languages. This was my university now. Free resources, borrowed Wi-Fi, and enough stubbornness to make up for the lack of credentials after my name. Bryn Gregory, dropout, I whispered. Who thinks she can code? But I could. I knew I could. I'd built working programs, cracked practice systems, understood concepts that should have required a degree. YouTube had taught me Python. Free Code Camp had taught me JavaScript. Sheer desperation had taught me everything else. Upstairs, floorboards creaked. I slammed the laptop shut, heart hammering. Just the house settling. Nobody checking on the maid who lived in the basement staff quarters. Nobody except Dion, who somehow saw past the uniform to the person underneath. I opened the laptop again. 2 more hours until dawn. 2 more hours to become someone who mattered. The video resumed, and I disappeared into the code. The acceptance letter came on a Tuesday. I remember because Mom made her terrible blueberry pancakes to celebrate, burned on the edges, raw in the middle, perfect because she made them. Dad lifted me off the ground, spinning until we were both dizzy and laughing. Our girl, he kept saying. Our brilliant girl. Computer science at State, full ride scholarship. I was going to be a software engineer, going to build things that mattered, going to make them proud. That was 3 years ago, in the before. I pressed my palm against the cold basement wall, steadying myself against the memory. My parents' faces were already getting fuzzy at the edges. Something I'd read happens when you lose people. Your brain can't hold on to everything, so details slip away like water through your fingers. The week before the accident, Dad had given me his old calculator. Use this through my engineering degree, he said. Now it's yours. I still had it, kept it in my locker upstairs, the only physical piece of them I'd managed to hold on to when everything else got sold to pay bills. The night it happened, I was studying for my database management final, junior year, 2nd semester. I had a 3.9 GPA and an internship lined up for summer. My roommate Sarah was asleep across the room. My phone lit up, unknown number, and some distant instinct made me step into the hallway before answering. Is this Bryn Gregory? Yes. I'm calling from Mercy Hospital. There's been an accident. The hospital hallway was beige. I remember that. Beige walls, beige floors, fluorescent lights that made everyone look like ghosts. A doctor with kind eyes told me words that didn't make sense strung together. Head trauma, internal bleeding, everything we could. Both of them. Gone before I arrived. I took 1 semester off, then another. The bills kept coming. Hospital, funeral, their mortgage I didn't know was underwater. Insurance fought everything. I drained my savings, sold their house for less than they owed, watched my college fund evaporate into debt I'd spend years repaying. Financial aid called. Miss Gregory, we need to discuss your enrollment status. I couldn't go back. Couldn't focus on algorithms and data structures when I was working 3 jobs to keep my head above water. Dropped out 1 semester before graduation. So close I could taste it. So far it might as well have been the moon. That's when the shame started. The looks from people who'd known me before, the questions I couldn't answer. What happened to college? Weren't you studying computers? I learned to lie. It wasn't for me. Decided to take a different path. Easier than explaining how grief and poverty make decisions for you. But I couldn't kill the hunger. Late nights at the 24-hour diner where I waitressed, I'd watch YouTube tutorials on my phone between shifts. The library became my sanctuary. Free computers, free internet, free education if you were willing to teach yourself. I took notes on napkins, receipt paper, whatever I could find. If you're still here with me, I need you to stay, because what I learned in that library is about to save everything. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Other students looked through me. Security guards watched me suspiciously. This girl in a stained uniform clearly didn't belong. But I kept coming back. Python, JavaScript, network security, penetration testing. Every skill I'd have learned in that final semester, I'd taught myself. Then I went further. Advanced topics, specialized knowledge, the kind of expertise that usually required graduate degrees. No one believed me. No credentials, no proof except code I'd written that no one would ever see. So I became invisible. Took a job cleaning Gavin's mansion because it paid better than the diner and included housing. Kept my head down. Kept learning. Kept hoping that someday, somehow, all those midnight hours would matter. I never imagined that day would come like this. Dion found me in the library on a Thursday afternoon. I wasn't supposed to be there. The estate library was family space, off limits to staff except for cleaning. But it was 2 p.m., everyone was out, and the mahogany desk by the window had the best light for reading technical documentation. I was so deep in a cybersecurity white paper that I didn't hear him come in. That looks intense. I jumped, nearly knocking my tablet off the desk. Dion stood in the doorway, still in his suit from whatever meeting he'd come from, his tie loosened. He looked tired. He always looked a little tired, like carrying the weight of being Gavin's son was its own exhausting job. "I'm sorry, I'll go." I scrambled to gather my things. "Don't." He walked closer, eyes on my screen. "Is that penetration testing methodology?" My throat went dry. I was just... Bryn. His voice was gentle. "How long have you been teaching yourself this stuff?" No one had asked me that. Ever. No one paid enough attention to notice. 2 years, I whispered. Maybe more. I don't know. He pulled out the chair across from me, sitting down like we were equals, like I wasn't wearing a cleaning uniform, and he wasn't wearing a watch that cost more than I'd make in a year. Why? The question cracked something open in my chest. Because I was supposed to finish. Because I was good at it. Because... My voice broke. Because it's the only piece of myself I have left from before. I told him everything. My parents, the accident, dropping out, the shame of being 1 semester short, how I couldn't let it go even when everyone said I should move on, find something more realistic. Dion listened without interrupting. When I finally stopped, he was quiet for a long moment. "Show me something you've built." "What?" "Code. A program. Something you're proud of." My hands shook as I pulled up a portfolio I'd never shown anyone. A network monitoring tool I'd designed, a machine learning algorithm for pattern recognition, a dozen projects born from tutorial videos and stubborn midnight determination. He studied each one, asking questions that proved he actually understood what he was looking at. His degree was in business, but he'd minored in computer science. He knew enough to recognize real skill when he saw it. "Bryn, this is graduate-level work. It's just YouTube tutorials." "No." He looked at me with something I couldn't name. "This is genius. You know that, right? What you've done, teaching yourself at this level with no resources, no support, most people couldn't do this with a full university backing them." I couldn't breathe, couldn't process someone seeing me the way he was seeing me right now. "Why are you cleaning houses?" he asked quietly. "Because nobody cares what you know if you can't prove it on paper." Something shifted in his expression, determination maybe, or anger at a world that worked this way. "What if someone believed in you?" he said. "Really believed in you. What would you do?" I laughed, bitter. "Learn everything, finish what I started, maybe actually become the person I was supposed to be." He pulled out his phone, typing quickly. My tablet pinged, email notification. I opened it. A payment confirmation. Enrollment in an online certification program. Advanced cybersecurity, top-tier credential. "What did you—" "Don't argue," he said. "Consider it an investment. You're going to do extraordinary things, Bryn. Someone should bet on that. Tears burned my eyes. Why? Because I see you. His voice was rough. Everyone else looks through you, but I see you. And what I see is remarkable. That was the moment everything changed. That was the moment I started falling in love with Gavin's son, and he started falling in love with his father's maid, and we both knew it was impossible, but neither of us could stop. 3 months later, he told his father he intended to marry me. I'd never seen Gavin so angry. The email came at 11:47 p.m., 3 days after Gavin fired me. I was in a motel room that smelled like mildew and cigarettes, staring at my bank account, $247.32. Maybe 2 more weeks of rent if I didn't eat much. Then I'd be on the street. My phone lit up. Subject line, invoice payment received. I clicked it, confused. Someone had paid for an advanced Python certification course I'd been eyeing for months. $309. Then another notification. Enrollment confirmed. Cloud architecture specialization. Another. Payment processed. Machine learning fundamentals. My hands started shaking. 4 courses, 6 courses, 10. A curated path through advanced cybersecurity topics that would take me from self-taught amateur to industry-recognized expert, all paid in full, all anonymous. Almost. The billing name was listed as D. Reeves. I called him immediately. Dion, what did you do? What you should have been able to do 3 years ago. His voice was steady, unapologetic. Keep learning. I can't accept this. You can and you will. Bryn, my father can't see past his own arrogance. But I see you. I've always seen you. My throat closed. He fired me because of you. Because you told him. Because I told him I love you. The words hung there, real and terrifying. And I'm not taking it back. Dion, we're from completely different. Don't. His voice turned fierce. Don't do that. Don't reduce what we have to bank accounts and zip codes. You're brilliant. You're driven. You're everything I've been looking for, and you're exactly where you belong, right beside me. I pressed my palm against my mouth, fighting tears. Nobody had believed in me like this. Not since my parents died. Not since the world decided I didn't matter. I can't pay you back. I don't want you to pay me back. I want you to become everything you're capable of becoming. Take the courses, get the certifications, build your portfolio, and when you're ready, we'll show my father exactly who you are. Over the next 6 months, he kept his promise. Anonymous payments appeared like clockwork. Rent, groceries, course fees, never too much, never charity, just enough to let me focus on learning instead of survival. We texted every day. He'd send me articles about emerging tech. I'd send him code snippets I was proud of. Slowly, carefully, we built something that felt like partnership, like equals. Stay with me here. You need to see what happens when belief meets talent. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. He came to visit once, driving 6 hours to the motel. We sat in his car drinking gas station coffee, talking about encryption algorithms and whether love could exist across impossible divides. It's not impossible, he said, just difficult. There's a difference. I wanted to believe him. 3 weeks ago, I finished my final certification, top of the class, portfolio gleaming with real projects and proven skills. Yesterday, Dion told his father he was marrying me whether Gavin approved or not. Today, everything exploded. The conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, 30 floors up. I felt like I might fall through the glass. Gavin stood at the head of the table, silver hair perfectly styled, jaw tight with rage. His executives, Gerard Drew, Hayden Bone, Kashawn McKinley, sat frozen, pretending they weren't witnessing a family implosion. Absolutely not. Gavin's voice could have cut steel. I will not allow my son to throw away his future on… On what, Dad? Dion's hands were clenched. Say it. On someone you think is beneath us? On someone with no education, no family, no… She has more education than half your executive team. She taught herself advanced cybersecurity while working 3 jobs. She has certifications your own IT department doesn't have. Gavin laughed. Cold. Dismissive. Certifications bought online mean nothing. Any idiot can… That's when his phone erupted. Not rang. Erupted. Every notification sound firing at once, the screen flashing red. Around the table, other phones started buzzing. Laptops chimed alerts. The massive monitor on the wall flickered, then filled with cascading error messages. Security breach detected, system failure. Imminent data corruption in progress. Abner, the VP of Operations, went pale. Sir, we're under attack. Gavin grabbed his phone, barking into it. Get security on the line, now. What do you mean they can't stop it? The room descended into chaos. Executives shouting, phones ringing. The holographic display in the center of the table materializing, showing the network infrastructure lighting up red like a spreading infection. I stood in the corner, invisible in my cleaning uniform, watching the digital carnage unfold. My brain automatically analyzed the attack pattern. Ransomware, sophisticated, multi-vector. Whoever designed this knew exactly what they were doing. How long until total system failure? Gavin's voice cut through the noise. 72 hours, Gerard said, typing frantically. Maybe less. It's adaptive. Every time we try to quarantine it, it evolves. Get our cybersecurity team here. Every contractor we have on retainer. I don't care what it costs. They're already here, sir. They can't crack the encryption. Gavin's face went red. Then find someone who can. My entire empire, every file, every transaction, every piece of intellectual property, it's all going to be wiped clean? Unless we pay the ransom. They're demanding $50 million. We don't negotiate with criminals. Then we need a miracle. The room fell silent except for the persistent alert chimes. I watched the code scrolling across the screens. Layers of encryption I recognized from late-night study sessions. Techniques I'd practiced on dummy systems. Vulnerabilities I'd learned to exploit and defend against. I could solve this. The thought arrived fully formed, terrifying. I could actually solve this. Dion's eyes found mine across the room. He saw my expression, the recognition, the certainty, and something passed between us. A question, a plea. Father. His voice was quiet, dangerous. I'll marry whoever you choose, but first, I need you to do something. What? Agree to let Bryn try to save your company. Gavin turned, finally noticing me. His laugh was cruel. Solve this, he said, and I'll agree to you marrying my son. His jaw would drop soon enough. The command center smelled like coffee and panic. I sat at a workstation surrounded by men who wanted me to fail. Gerard Drew kept glancing at me like I was a stray dog that had wandered into a surgical suite. Hayden Bone had actually laughed when I sat down. Kashawn McKinley didn't even try to hide his contempt. This is ridiculous, Gerard muttered. We're wasting time we don't have. Dion stood behind my chair, a silent anchor. I felt his presence like a hand on my shoulder even though he wasn't touching me. 71 hours, I said quietly, eyes on the screen. Show me everything. Hayden leaned back, arms crossed. Everything? Honey, you wouldn't understand the first layer of show me everything. Something in my voice made him stop. He pulled up the diagnostics. The malware was beautiful in a horrifying way. Polymorphic code that rewrote itself every 17 minutes. Triple encrypted payload. Rootkit embedded so deep it was practically part of the operating system. And the attack vector? Christ, they'd come in through a zero-day exploit in the firmware itself. Whoever built this is a genius, I whispered. Great. They're a genius and we're screwed. Gerard started pacing. The best teams in the industry can't crack this. What makes you think? Because I recognized the signature. My fingers were already flying across the keyboard. This encryption pattern, it's modified AES 256 with a custom key derivation function. I've seen this technique in underground forums. White hat researchers use it for penetration testing. The room went quiet. You're saying this is a white hat attack? Kashan asked. No. I'm saying whoever did this learned from white hat techniques and weaponized them. I pulled up a terminal window, running diagnostics. They're using a technique called time lock encryption. The decryption key is mathematically tied to the 72-hour countdown. Even if we had the key now, it wouldn't work until the timer expires. So we're dead in the water. Not if we don't play by their rules. I opened my personal cloud drive, the one Dion had paid for, and pulled up 3 months of research I'd done on adaptive malware defense. Notes from a YouTube series by a former NSA cryptographer. Code I'd written at 3 a.m., testing theoretical countermeasures no one thought would ever matter. All those hours. All that learning. It was for this moment. I can't decrypt their payload, I said, but I can build a parallel system that mirrors our data in real time, then isolate the infected network. We essentially amputate the diseased limb before it spreads to vital organs. Hayden frowned. That would require rebuilding our entire cloud architecture in 71 hours, I know. That's impossible. I looked at him. Then watch me do the impossible. If you want to see someone prove every doubter wrong, you need to stay with me. Subscribe because what happens in the next 24 hours will restore your faith in the underdog. I started coding. Not the careful, methodical programming they teach in universities. This was combat coding. Fast, instinctive, pulling from every tutorial I'd absorbed, every late-night practice session, every scrap of knowledge I'd fought to learn. The team watched in silence as I built the framework. Python scripts to automate the data migration. JavaScript to handle the real-time synchronization. A custom algorithm to prioritize critical systems. 6 hours passed. Then 12. My vision blurred. My hands cramped. Dion brought me water and food I barely tasted. The executives cycled out, but the core team stayed, their skepticism slowly shifting to something else. Curiosity, maybe, or the first hint of hope. At hour 19, I deployed the first module. The mirror system came online, clean and isolated, beginning its silent work of copying everything worth saving. It's actually working, Kashan breathed. Gerard leaned over my shoulder. How did you learn this? YouTube, I said, and desperation. 48 hours remained, and I was just getting started. Hour 56. My files were gone. I stared at the empty directory, my brain refusing to process what I was seeing. 3 days of work, scripts, backup protocols, migration algorithms, just vanished. What happened? Dion's voice was sharp with alarm. I checked the logs, my stomach dropping. Someone deleted everything, locally, from inside the building. Abner appeared in the doorway, his expression carefully neutral. Too neutral. Problem? My entire project directory is gone. I met his eyes. Someone with admin access wiped it. Unfortunate. He didn't sound unfortunate. Perhaps you should have kept better backups. Though I suppose that's the difference between real professionals and, well, the implication hung there. Poisonous. Kashan checked his own terminal. She's right. Someone pushed a remote delete command 20 minutes ago. Came from an executive-level account. Must have been a mistake, Abner said smoothly. These things happen under pressure. Maybe it's time to bring in the actual experts. It wasn't a mistake. Dion's voice was ice. You've been undermining her from the start. Every delay, every missing resource, every... Careful, son. Accusations like that require proof. I tuned them out, my mind racing. 36 hours left. Starting from scratch meant failure, meant Gavin's empire collapsed, meant Dion lost everything, meant I'd proven every doubter right. My parents' faces flashed through my mind. Our brilliant girl. Then something else. The library. The mahogany desk where Dion first found me. The cloud storage he'd set up so I'd never lose my work again. Wait, I logged into my backup drive. I sync to the cloud every 4 hours. The files loaded, all of them. Everything except the last 2 hours of work. But enough. More than enough. Abner's face twitched. Huh, I said softly. Guess that's the difference between someone who learned in a classroom and someone who learned by losing everything once already. We back up compulsively. I restored the files and dove back in. But now I was furious, and fury made me sharper. The mirror system was 70% complete. I pushed harder, optimizing code I'd thought was already optimized, finding efficiencies I'd missed before. Gerard started helping, actually helping. His skepticism burned away by watching me rebuild from catastrophe without breaking. Hour 42. Critical systems migrated. Hour 36. Secondary databases copied. Hour 29. I hit a wall. The encryption they'd used on the core financial systems was different from everything else. Military grade, something I'd only read about in theoretical papers, never actually encountered. I don't know how to crack this, I admitted, my voice cracking. The room deflated. Gavin, who'd been watching from the corner for the past 6 hours, shook his head. Then it's over. No. Dion's hand found my shoulder. Bryn, you've already done the impossible 3 times in the last 2 days. What do you need? Time. And... I pulled up forums on my tablet, searching. There was a researcher in Prague who published something about this encryption type. Maybe if I can find... Found it. Hayden was suddenly beside me, his laptop showing an archived academic paper. Published 2 years ago. The math is insane, but the vulnerability is in the implementation, not the algorithm. We worked together. Me, Hayden, Gerard, even Kashan. 4 people who'd thought I was a joke, now moving in synchronized urgency, passing code back and forth, building on each other's insights. Hour 12. We cracked it. Hour 6. Full system migration complete. Hour 2. I stared at the screen, hardly daring to breathe. The clean mirror system held everything. Every file, every transaction, every piece of data that made Gavin's empire function. Now what? Gavin asked. Now we let the infected system die. I typed the final command, and we cut it loose. The timer hit 0. The original network crashed spectacularly. Red alerts everywhere, systems failing in cascading waves, exactly as the ransomware intended. But the mirror system hummed along, untouched, clean, operational, every critical function running smooth. I initiated the failover. The company's operations seamlessly switched to the new architecture. Clients wouldn't even notice the transition. In the holographic display, the infection turned gray. Dead code in a dead system. Harmless. Status. Threat neutralized, the screen read. The command center was silent. Then Gerard started laughing, disbelieving, relieved, almost hysterical. She did it. The Maid just saved a $500 million company with YouTube tutorials and pure stubbornness. Gavin stared at me. His jaw had actually dropped. I stood, my legs shaking. Also, I said quietly, Abner's been feeding information to the hackers. His IP address shows up in the access logs 3 days before the attack. He gave them the back door. Security escorted Abner out. He didn't even try to deny it. Dion wrapped his arms around me, and I finally let myself collapse. Told you, he whispered against my hair. Told you that you were extraordinary. The check sat on Gavin's desk between us. Not 27,000, not even the 50 million the hackers had demanded. $77,400. That's what you saved me, Gavin said quietly. His voice had changed, no arrogance, no mockery, just exhaustion and something that might have been shame. Legal fees for the breach investigation, the ransom we didn't pay, system restoration costs we avoided. Conservative estimate puts you saving the company 12 million. But this, he tapped the check. This is what I owe you personally. I couldn't touch it. Couldn't make it real. My mother, I whispered. There's a surgery she needs. Her spine, from the accident, it's deteriorating. Insurance won't cover it because it's experimental. $32,000. Then you have enough. Gavin pushed the check toward me. With plenty left over. Dion stood beside me, his hand finding mine. I gripped it like a lifeline. Why that amount? I asked. Gavin smiled, and it was the first genuine expression I'd ever seen on his face. Your salary for the 6 months you worked here. What I should have paid someone with your skills. Plus the wages from the 3 days you just worked saving my empire. With overtime. My throat burned. You fired me. I was an arrogant fool. He said it simply, like admitting the sky was blue. I've spent 30 years building this company, surrounding myself with credentialed experts, believing that pedigree and prestige were proxies for talent. And then a 25-year-old woman who learned programming from YouTube videos accomplished what my entire security team couldn't. He stood, walking to the window overlooking the city, his empire saved by someone he'd dismissed as worthless. My colleagues never taught me this, he continued. My wealth certainly didn't. But you did, Bryn. You taught me that I've been measuring value with the wrong instruments my entire life. I didn't know what to say. This man had fired me, humiliated me, represented everything I thought I'd never be good enough for. I owe you an apology, Gavin said. A real one. I judged you on your circumstances instead of your character, on your resume instead of your capabilities, on what you didn't have instead of what you'd built from nothing. He turned back to face us. I was wrong. Completely, inexcusably wrong. Dion's hand tightened in mine. And my son, Gavin's voice softened, saw what I was too blind to see. That you're not just talented, you're relentless. You don't quit. Most people with your obstacles would have given up, but you kept learning, kept pushing, kept becoming more than the world said you could be. He walked back to the desk, pulling out another document. This is an employment contract. Director of Cybersecurity Operations. Salary commensurate with your skill level, which, as we've established, is considerable. Full benefits. Education reimbursement if you want to finish that degree, though honestly, you've already proven you don't need it. I stared at the paper, at the salary number that would change everything. You don't have to decide now, Gavin said. Take time. Get your mother the surgery. But Bryn, I hope you'll consider it. This company needs people who think like you, who fight like you. And, Dion added, his voice warm, I need you to marry me, officially, with my father's blessing this time. Gavin smiled. You have it, enthusiastically. I'd be honored to have you in this family. I looked at the check, at the contract, at these 2 men who'd watched me rebuild myself from nothing and decided I was worth believing in. Sometimes, I said, my voice shaking, you just need one person to believe in you when no one else will. One person who sees you when the world looks through you. And sometimes, Dion said, kissing my temple, that person helps you remember you always had it in you. You just needed the chance to prove it. I picked up the check, picked up the contract. When do I start? 6 months later, I walked through the executive floor wearing a navy blazer over my white collared shirt. A deliberate echo of my old uniform, but tailored now, professional. A reminder of where I came from and how far I'd traveled. The nameplate on my office door read, Bryn Gregory Reeves, Director of Cybersecurity Operations. Yes, Gregory Reeves. Dion and I had married 3 months ago in a small ceremony, just family and the few people who'd believed in me when it mattered. Gerard was there. Hayden brought his kids. Even Kashan cried during the vows, though he'd deny it if anyone asked. My office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the same city I'd once stared at from a basement server room. My desk held 3 monitors, a mechanical keyboard I'd dreamed about owning for years, and my father's old calculator in a small glass case. Every morning I touched it before starting work. Our brilliant girl. I'd kept my promise. Mom's surgery happened 2 weeks after I received Gavin's check. The experimental procedure worked. She was walking again, slowly but surely, rebuilding strength she'd thought was gone forever. She lived with Dion and me now, in a house with wide hallways and grab bars and every accommodation she needed. Still feels like a dream, she'd said last week, watching me get ready for work. It's not a dream, I'd told her. It's just what happens when you refuse to quit. But the job was more than a title and a paycheck. It was a mission. The first thing I'd done as director was audit our hiring practices. Turned out we'd been filtering out candidates without traditional degrees, exactly the kind of person I'd been. Talented people teaching themselves at night, building portfolios that demonstrated real skill, but getting auto-rejected by algorithms that only recognized university names. I changed that. Now we had skills-based assessments, portfolio reviews, practical tests that measured what you could actually do instead of where you'd learned to do it. We'd hired 6 people in the past 4 months who would have been invisible under the old system. Maria Hoffman, a former barista who taught herself cloud architecture through free online courses. Melinda, a single mom who'd learned data science while her kids slept. Shauna, who'd been homeless 2 years ago and learned to code at the public library. They sat in my department now, brilliant and hungry and grateful for the chance to prove themselves. You're building an army of underdogs, Gerard had joked last week. I'm building a team that understands what it means to fight for something, I'd corrected. We'd also launched the Gregory Foundation, named after my parents, funded by a portion of my salary, and a surprisingly generous contribution from Gavin. It provided scholarships, equipment, and internet access to people pursuing self-directed education. No GPA requirements, no essays about overcoming adversity. Just proof that you were learning and a commitment to keep going. Last month we gave our first 20 scholarships. The applications had made me cry. So many stories like mine, so many people who just needed someone to believe in them. Dion found me in my office that afternoon, staring at the city. Thinking about something? He wrapped his arms around me from behind, thinking about how different everything could have been. I leaned into him. If you hadn't walked into that library, if you hadn't seen me, I'll always see you, he said, even when you couldn't see yourself. My phone buzzed. A message from our latest hire, Jordan Kirby, a 22-year-old who'd learned penetration testing from YouTube, just like I had. She'd just passed her first security audit with flying colors. Thank you for the chance, her message read. You changed my life. No, I thought. You changed your own life. I just opened the door. That was the thing about belief. It didn't do the work for you. You still had to show up, put in the hours, push through the exhaustion and doubt and fear. But knowing someone believed you were capable? That made the impossible feel possible. That made you willing to try when quitting would have been easier. Gavin knocked on my open door. Got a minute? He'd changed too. Still brilliant, still demanding, but humbler now. He listened more, questioned his assumptions, treated people like people instead of assets. There's a company in Singapore, he said. Major cybersecurity crisis. They asked specifically for you. Me? Word gets around. The maid who saved a billionaire's empire using YouTube tutorials? You're kind of famous in certain circles. He smiled. They're offering a consultation fee that's frankly obscene. Interested? I looked at Dion. At my office, at the city where I'd once been invisible. Yeah, I said. I'm interested. Because the girl who'd learned in library basements and motel rooms wasn't done yet. She was just getting started. And to everyone out there teaching themselves at midnight, working 3 jobs while studying, believing you're not good enough because you don't have the right credentials, I see you. The world might look through you right now, but your moment is coming. Keep learning, keep building, keep pushing. Your skills matter more than you think. If this story moved you, if you needed to hear that someone like you can make it, subscribe and join this community. Drop a comment telling me what you're learning right now, what you're fighting for. Because your story matters and I want to hear it. You've got this. Go for it. Sometimes you just need one person to believe in you. Sometimes that person is yourself. Either way, don't quit. The world needs what you're building.